broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can love, fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can love, fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can love, fuck off. Fuck you and your mom, and your sister, and your job, and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom, and your sister, and your job, and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take. Take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days, what a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started since I never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke-ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. Be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke-ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke-ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated, she only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E. And your mom and your sister and your job and your broke-ass car and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody
It's not really a controversial statement that the quality of Pokemon games was at its absolute zenith back in the DS era. From Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which kicked off the much beloved 4th generation of Pokemon, to Black 2 and White 2, which wrapped up an incredibly ambitious and inventive 5th generation, the most the series has seen to date, in fact. The DS games were Pokemon at its peak as far as game design chops go. And really, while there may be some who argue that the decline in quality for the games that came after has been exaggerated depending on whom you choose to talk to, the existence of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is a resounding reminder of just how great these games could be back in the day, and how transition to 3D spaces. In case it's not clear, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are really great. Now, they owe most of this to the simple fact that they're incredibly straightforward and faithful to a fault one-to-one translations of the originals. But those 15-year-old originals still remain near the top of this series outing, so simply by bringing them over almost as is to the Switch, we end up with an entry that's far more remarkable, satisfying, and fulfilling than most of its other recent ones have been. The elevator pitch for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is fairly straightforward. There are almost exactly one-to-one recreations of the original games, with no attempt to try and integrate them into the modern stylistic or design sensibilities the series has adopted since. This could sound like an incredibly unambitious undertaking, and it is, but it's also precisely what helps these new releases remain so much fun and engaging. You see, rather than making unnecessary changes to the pitch-perfect design of the original games, or trying to recreate them in the style of Sword and Shield, ILCA Incorporated, led by Game Freak, have simply opted to not mess with what works. Given that trying to recreate older games in newer styles has led to some pretty divisive remakes in this series in the past, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are both really good modern takes on the classics they're based on, but they end up sacrificing a lot that people loved about those originals in the process. This ends up working out really well here. So we end up with Sinnoh, still the best map in the series, replete with an incredible amount of aesthetic and geographic variation brought over as is. And Sinnoh is an incredible map. It has everything: grasslands, deserts, coastal settings and beaches, mountains, small village tucked out of the way, giant urban centers that are the center of life in the region. It's a massive map, with the trip between any two destinations being extremely long, full of dense and massive routes, which make every time you step out feel like an actual journey and an actual adventure, something that, again, the modern games in this series lack. It's also designed to give the player a lot of agency. While Sinnoh is laid out with a lock and key design to channel players' progress along an intended critical path, it also offers a lot to the player who's willing to step off the beaten path and go traipsing on their own, whether that be encounters with relatively rare wild Pokemon to entire areas and dungeons that are optional and hidden, just waiting for the enterprising player who might be willing to step off the road and follow the trail to where it leads. Sinnoh is an adventure and a great map and setting, and that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl bring it over as is without trying to, for example, recreate it in Sword and Shield's 3D style or as a wild area, works to these games' benefit. As of right now, it's very clear that Game Freak does not properly understand how to design compelling 3D spaces, but they've mastered the art of great design in 2D. So sticking to their best 2D maps to date, as is, rather than trying to rebuild it in 3D, was definitely a smart decision. In general, this means that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl end up with almost all of the same merits that the original games had. They've got that great map, as I mentioned, and the great sense of progression and adventure it brings. They're also ridiculously full of content. The 4th generation Pokemon games were frankly absurd with just how much they had to offer to players. You had an extremely long mainline campaign, you had online trading and battles, you had an extremely fleshed out contest tournament you could lose dozens of hours to. You had massive mini-games and meta-progression frameworks, from the Underground, which hosted Fossil, the expansive post-game with an entire new island, that opened up once you beat the Elite Four. And as mentioned, you had entire dungeons and areas that were totally optional, just lying there out of the way for players who bothered to go explore them, getting some pretty incredible rewards, such as a wicked encounter with a legendary. All of that is here, almost as is. There have been a few changes made, some for the better. The underground is hugely expanded now, and it knows it because it's called the Grand Underground now, and plays host to everything it did in the originals, while also including level Pokemon, which can usually end up being stronger than the ones you find in the wild, and also end up including some rare Pokemon you can't find anywhere else.
Keenan.
In a way, this helps address the issue of Pokemon availability in Sinnoh, famously for example, the Sinnoh Dex did not offer any fire-type Pokemon until you beat the Pokemon League, unless you really liked Ponyta or Rapidash. That sort of gets addressed with the Grand Underground. Other changes are decidedly worse. For instance, contests in Diamond and Pearl were a step down from how perfect they had been in Ruby and Sapphire, which introduced them, but they were still really compelling. They've been totally ruined in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to just being a rhythm minigame. I'm sure a lot of people may still enjoy them, but I personally definitely found them to be a step down from the originals. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl also make the curious decision to eschew the content and improvements in Pokemon Platinum, the most improved third version of Diamond and Pearl, made. This means that progression, mechanics, and the story all revert to how it was in the original pair of games, which is extremely disappointing, to be clear, because so much of what Platinum brought to the table, from the improved story climax towards the end to the excellent post-game in the Battle Frontier, has needlessly been ignored. But to these games' credits, they actually end up bringing a lot of their own alternative set of improvements to the table to compensate. Some of those are very basic quality of life changes that can nonetheless play moment to moment, such as the decision to not tie HMs, the hidden field moves you need to use to progress past obstacles, to the Pokemon you're carrying in your party, or the ability to customize your character with some really great customization options offered to boot. Others bring back long requested features to the series, such as allowing the ability to have your Pokemon follow you in the overworld. They added an extremely substantial post-game, including allowing the ability to legally catch most legendary Pokemon, but after completing some quests to get them first, as well as the ability to re-battle gym leaders and the Elite Four in extremely challenging encounters, where they have perfect team compositions and AI dialed in these games. The original Gen 4 Pokemon games were fairly challenging. They would never get mistaken for a Dark Souls, but they did push back on the player a little, and some fights, such as Cynthia, were legendarily relentless if you went in unprepared. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl actually retain that aspect. Enemy AI, team compositions, and move pools are some of the best the series has. Buffs to the enemies are almost necessary, because the game retains the controversial EXP share from Sword and Shield, which will give every Pokemon in your party experience points after you finish a battle, regardless of whether or not they actually participated. There is, frustratingly enough, no way to turn it off either. Now, to the game's credit, the EXP share here feels better balanced than it has been in other games, but it can still be really easy to get really over-leveled and trivialize a lot of the encounters in the game, which is almost a shame, because as I mentioned, some of them really are well designed. It's easy enough to circumvent the EXP share gains. You can keep a rotating team of more than 6 Pokemon at a time and keep swapping them in and out to basically have a bigger roster you're working from. And to be fair, I ended up enjoying using a lot of Pokemon I've never used before because of this. But again, I would much rather have made that choice for myself, rather than being forced into it, because the game was handing out so much experience points that the only way to maintain challenge for a lot of it was to resort to workarounds like these. Now, Game Freak already had the perfect solution to this problem through Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which let you turn off EXP share if you didn't want it, but left it on by default. Why not just offer players that option again? Even with a lot of the encounters in the game being trivialized, however, the late games ones hit hard, with the Elite Four and Champion battles in particular being extremely challenging, and the post-game battles being the best NPC battles this series has seen. It's just really a shame that so much of the good work that must have surely gone into designing these encounters has been unnecessarily compromised by this insistence on not offering player options. And there are some other problems. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are actually the buggiest Pokemon releases that we've had in a while. There isn't anything game-breakingly bad, but you'll often see random stuff like textures not loading or characters getting stuck in the geometry, a consequence of adding full analog movement to a grid-based map without properly accounting for it, I guess. Sound randomly cutting out, or even just outright crashes. The good news is, the game has a really aggressive autosave, so you never really lose a lot of progress when this does happen. It's just a shame it happens at all. A day one patch has already made things better, but there's still a long way to go, and hopefully ILCA and Game Freak continue patching the game, because while Pokemon games have never been paragons of good programming, they at least don't let their messy coding get in the way of the player's experience too much. Right now, that's decidedly not the case, and while none of these glitches and bugs are too frustrating, that doesn't really absolve their existence to begin with. There are three other points that I want to discuss, one extremely positive, one bafflingly negative, and one mixed. So let's start with the negative one, because to be fair, it's also the most minor one. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have frustratingly patchy touchscreen support, which is almost hilarious because the original games pioneered touch input for Pokemon to begin with, but that's where we are. Touch input is supported for the Pokétech smartwatch, and in some random and arbitrary areas, such as for polishing up your own gym badges, or minigames such as digging out treasure in the Grand Underground. But it's not supported for input in battles or menus, and that's almost the whole game. This isn't a major problem, but it's baffling. Why is touchscreen support so inconsistent and patchy? For example, I mentioned above that minigames like digging for treasure in the underground support touch input, but Poffin cooking, on the other hand, does not. Why? Why not at least be consistent within the limited scope of touch input implementation you decide on? It's just so unnecessarily confusing. Again, none of this is a major issue just because input is at best a convenience, and you get used to its absence in 3 seconds. It's just a curious and amusing point of interest. Far more positive, and this one is for something substantially more important, are my impressions of the soundtrack. Patched in with a massive 8GB day one update, the soundtrack for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remixes one of the best, most atmospheric set of the tunes this series has had expertly. Almost every remix is a slam dunk. I'm sure there will be some changes that some don't like variously. I myself am disappointed with the least two songs as remix, but much like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the beloved remakes of the equally beloved Gold and Silver, these games unlock the ability to play the original soundtrack later in the game as well, for those who simply prefer the sound of the DS games over the remixes. As positive as I am on the soundtrack, I'm more mixed on how the game looks. Now, to be clear, I don't think it necessarily looks bad. It definitely looks better than its style aesthetic for Pokemon, particularly when well done. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it can't help create a real sense of place for Sinnoh, as well as, particularly when paired with some gorgeous and extremely detailed battle backgrounds, which always include Mount Coronet towering in the background. But at the same time, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of how this game has done the chibi thing. I think something like the Pokemon Let's Go
Pokemon Diamond and Pearl released for the Nintendo DS in 2006 in Japan and 2007 in the West, and saw in the 4th generation of Pokemon. They released to positive reviews and have sold just under 18 million units over the years since. Generation 1 for the GBA, Generation 2 for the DS and Gen 3 for the 3DS. It was only logical that Generation 4 would follow suit, and sure enough, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were announced for the Nintendo Switch back in February of this year. Here we are now 9 months later and they have just released on the Switch. Does it shine like a diamond, or is it not very effective? I'm Glenn Bolger, thank you to Nintendo for the review code, and now let's find out. In terms of the story, things take place in the region of Sinnoh. You are given a Pokédex to attempt to fill up by Professor Rowan, as well as a starter Pokemon with Turtwig, Piplup and Chimchar being the grass, water and fire types offered to you, and you must then travel across the overworld, visiting towns and defeating the 8 gym leaders found in these towns in order to then have a chance of defeating the Elite Four. You'll have your rival to best and a shady bunch of evil Red Gyarados to try and find. So gameplay wise, the basic structure is very similar to the mainline Pokemon games that came before it and those that have followed it, to be perfectly honest. They are of course RPGs played from a top-down perspective where you must build a team of Pokemon to take into battle. Victory in these battles gains you XP and helps your team to level up, potentially evolving in some cases, learning new moves and generally becoming more powerful. You can choose from any learn a new move, it will have to supersede one of the moves you currently have. This has always been a nice system of risk and reward. Do you take the more powerful move that you've been offered, or do you stick with what's worked so far? Do you teach your Pokemon a move that's not of its type, therefore giving you some variety, or do you keep with something that it will be strong using? To build your team you will need to try and catch the wild Pokemon that adorn the forests, caves and other such areas between towns. Much like the originals, these battles have remained random, with you not being able to see the Pokemon and instead being pulled into battle from particular hotspots as you walk through them. I must say that I am very surprised that this was not one of the areas that they updated in this remake to use the more recent method of having the Pokemon visible on screen, allowing you to avoid battle should you want to. From a personal point of view, this was one quality of life update I was looking for, as I felt this change was a strong one in the more recent entries. Talking of tweaks or changes from the original, there are a few here and here are some of them. XP is shared across your whole party from the beginning, rather than needing to find a specific item to make this possible. Pausing the game will remind you of your next objective, rather than having the previous method of a recap of recent events whenever you turn the game back on. I like this change actually, just from a convenience point of view of being reminded what it was you had to do if you've left the game for a few days whilst life got in the way. How effective or not, as the case may be, a type of move is against another Pokemon type is now displayed on the move section of the battle screen. Series in the original games was the Pokemon Watch, or the Pokétch for short. In the DS games, this feature took up the entire bottom screen and had a list of apps, with more being granted to you as you played, and these ranged from a map and a clock to some incredibly useful ones which I won't spoil, but they did genuinely improve the gameplay, and I'm surprised this feature has never been seen since Diamond and Pearl. Well, the remakes bring it back and it can now be called up with a press of the R button, once you have obtained it that is. It's not as intuitive as it was on the touchscreen, although you can use the Switch's touchscreen for it when playing in handheld, but it's nice to have it included again as best as they could, and I do like how they implemented hidden machines, the moves you acquire at certain points that allow you to navigate particular environmental obstacles, into this Pokétch. When you are near an area which needs such a move, the Pokétch will call a wild Pokemon to perform the move for you, meaning that you do not need to load up a Pokemon in your party as you had to do in the original games. New for this game are the stickers that you will be awarded upon defeating enemies, which you can then decorate Pokeballs with to receive different effects that give you an edge in the contest that you can participate in. There have also been some tweaks to the trade station where you can link to trade or battle, and the underground system which allowed for base building, although they effectively serve the same purpose as far as I'm aware. I must be honest, I didn't put a huge amount of time into this particular aspect. In terms of the controls, you can move the D-pad or the left stick to move, and pushing harder on the left stick allows you to run once you have obtained the necessary item. Walking is quite cumbersome, but running can lead to you overshooting where you want to be at times, missing people you want to talk to for example, and it's just about getting
By pink goo.
Ebrium-based nano.
That balance right. All menu-based controls work as well as they need to make navigation nice and simple. Gameplay is everything you would expect from a Pokemon game, with the formula having remained largely unchanged since the originals of these games released. I do feel that the choices they've made in terms of what to improve, based on where the newer games in the series are now, seems a bit sporadic, but this may not bother others as much as me, and gameplay scores 17 out of 20. Controls work as well as they need to. The Poketch is less intuitive now, but that stands to reason, seeing as it was designed with the DS in mind, and they also score 17 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl's art direction will quite possibly be the most divisive point of these remakes. They have adopted a chibi art style, which I assume was done to try and keep the spirit of the small character sprites of the originals, but update things in the process. For my money, I must say it looks a lot better than the screenshots or videos before launch had made it seem, and the vibrancy of the colour palette is definitely appealing, but personally I feel the graphical style used in the Let's Go games, for example, was a great way to bring the series to a new generation, and I would have liked to have seen them continue with this style. Or if they were intent on doing the chibi style, something like the plasticine look in Link's Awakening would have been great. I feel like the game looks as good as the style allows it to, but I don't feel the style necessarily suits the game, if that makes sense. The Pokemon look good in battle, with these sections using the style seen in more recent games, and battle animations are fun to see if a little limited. I do need to mention a strange occurrence in regard to the frame pacing. On starting the game up, the frame pacing was incredibly erratic, causing a stuttering effect which was actually quite nauseating. After about an hour of play, I removed the Switch from the dock to check the Poketch controls in handheld, and upon putting it back into the dock, The issue seemed to have resolved itself, and the game, I don't know why this was or if anyone else has experienced it, but if you are having this issue, it may be worth just taking it out of dock mode and seeing if it fixes it. Audio wise, and in my opinion, Diamond and Pearl had some of the best music found in the first few generations. From the Jubilife city theme with its gentle and calming saxophone motif at night, having different day and night themes by the way was great, to some of the battle music found against tough opponents late in game, it just seemed to hit the spot so often. Music has been remixed for these remakes, and whilst subtle for the most part, you can definitely hear that tracks have a lot more body to them this time round. Bombastic tracks seem to carry more weight, whereas the softer tracks appear to have a little more nuance to them. From what I've heard so far, it's a great way to just refine what was already very good indeed. Visuals won't be for everyone, but at least the implementation of the chosen style is strong. They get 15 out of 20. Audio is great with some quite wonderful tracks, and the Real it scores 18 out of 20. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl cost £49.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. This is of course the standard price that Nintendo have selected for games on the Switch, and I feel a bit torn about scoring this category. On the one hand, new life has been breathed into games that were very good when released, and a new audience of gamers can now experience these on their current console of choice. But on the
How can we deliver one of the fuels of the future? Hydrogen could play a
On the other hand, I don't think the games look as impressive as a remake some 14 or 15 years after the original should look, and I feel as if the quality of life improvements included are a bit of a half job, and they should have gone all in here to bring it in line with more recent releases. I enjoyed revisiting Sinnoh, although feel that there are some missed opportunities here, but I can imagine a new generation of Pokemon fans having a lot of fun, and on balance, value gets 14 out of 20. To conclude, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl had strong foundations to build on, with the Generation 4 games being good entries in the series, and they take what was there and improve it in some ways. The fact that it is only in some ways, and some of the changes made to the series which have updated it a bit in recent years haven't been included here, means it feels like a bit of a step back for me though, I must say. Having said that, if you lamented the loss of random battles in the first place, this won't be an issue for you. Some changes may irk fans of the original. But anyone looking for another adventure in the world of Pokemon will
It's hard to believe that we first visited the Sinnoh region 15 years ago in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl on the Nintendo DS, and now we get to return to the region once again in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which remake and update the original experience for Nintendo Switch. And while these absolutely take a more modern Pokemon approach, they're still surprisingly faithful on the whole. So, after years of waiting for these Gen 4 remakes, do Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl live up to the originals? The game wastes no time in getting started. After making my character and naming my rival, I was off to choose my starter Pokemon, and beginning my adventure. It felt lightning fast compared to the more recent generations of Pokemon games, and even though I usually enjoy going through the plot of Pokemon titles, it felt refreshing to get right into the game without having to wade through seas of text and tutorials. The new art style jumped out at me right away, as the graphics have all been completely remade from the ground up. The overworld adopts a cute chibi art style featuring squat characters that call back to the 2D sprites of the original titles. When kept to the bird's eye view, it looks great and can look a bit awkward during cutscenes or odd camera angles, which just aren't flattering for the chibi-style characters. It's an overall cute approach that not only captures the nostalgic look of the original, but also updates everything in a faithful, yet interesting new way. Battles, on the other hand, look a bit more typical, featuring full-sized 3D models for the Pokemon and trainers alike. The animations and setting are great for the most part, and I enjoyed how the opponent trainers' battle entrance matched the original sprites, but the trainer animations as a whole are pretty stiff, especially when compared to the players' more fluid animations. The music is also nicely updated. Town themes are calming, battle themes are exciting. It's been great to experience each of the remix tracks to hear how similar or changed they are to the originals. One thing that hasn't changed at all is the story. You and your childhood friends still start a journey to become Pokemon trainers and take on the gym challenge. All the while, some sinister evil lurks in the region as Team Galactic starts to steal people's Pokemon and spread talk of creating a new universe. It's certainly less grandiose and exciting compared to the more recent Pokemon titles, but simplicity isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it still works as a faithful classic. Okay, talk of recreating the universe is still pretty grandiose, but it's not as cinematic as later Pokemon games. However, it is a bit disappointing that none of the extra plot from the subsequent Pokemon Platinum is here, which would have provided more background on Team Galactic, as well as diving into the mysterious legendary Pokemon Giratina. But what's here is still certainly enjoyable. I had forgotten just how interesting Team Galactic was as an organization. Of course, Pokemon games are rarely played just for the plot, and thankfully, the gameplay has seen some enhancements. While the overall flow is exactly what Pokemon fans know and love, with you roaming the overworld, battling and catching Pokemon, they've been improved with some quality of life updates and small changes to enhance the overall gameplay experience compared to the original titles. Such as how you now have the freedom to choose between the classic grid-based movement style with the D-pad or freestyle movement with the analog stick, which felt more natural to me personally. Running around the Sinnoh region with full analog freedom just feels special. While the
Monster spill? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty.
The world still has plenty of obstacles to overcome using hidden moves, or HMs. They're no longer required to teach your Pokemon. Instead, the Poketch has a new HM app, and with a quick press of a button, you can summon a random wild Pokemon to instantly use it. It's a fantastic change to the gameplay, that not only gives players better control over the moves they teach our team of Pokemon without taking up a slot, but also really speeds up the overall gameplay too. It's barely a chore to smash tons. The changes made to the overworld to make it a lot more fun to run around and explore, without sacrificing the essence of the original experience. Battles have also adopted some changes and improvements based on more recent Pokemon titles. Despite the lack of a second screen like the originals had, the menu and UI layout in battles feel well organized, showing players everything they need without obscuring anything important in battle. Move effectiveness against the opponent is shown, which is handy if you don't memorize your type advantages. It's all very similar to the Battle Gen 4 have also been retroactively added along with Fairy-type Pokemon, which originally didn't appear until Gen 6. While the Pokedex itself is the same as the original Diamond and Pearl, Pokemon that had their types changed to Fairy now reflect that change. It would have been easy to adapt these titles one-to-one with the original Diamond and Pearl, so I'm happy to see one of my favorite types in later generations present here. Come on, Clefairy just wouldn't be right without that Fairy classification. It's even in the name. In what's sure to be a more divisive change, the experience share system is also
and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can love, fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job, shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ends. Even try to bite my tongue when you start shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can love, fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even try to bite my tongue when you start shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days with a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I will it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never sister, any job, any broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you, any friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to about shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days, what a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days, what a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through. So let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that shit you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days, what a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about it in the worst ways. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You said you just needed space, and so I gave it. When I had nothing to say, you couldn't take it. Told everyone I'm a bitch, so I became it. Always had to put yourself above me. I was into you, but I'm over it now. And I was trying to be nice, but nothing's getting through, so let me spell it out. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your Craigslist couch and the way your voice sounds. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. Na 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 na. A, B, C, D, E, F. You and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. Fuck you and your mom and your sister and your job and your broke ass car, and that's what you call art. Fuck you and your friends that I'll never see again. Everybody but your dog, you can all fuck off. I swear I meant to mean the best when it ended. Even tried to bite my tongue when you started shit. Now you're texting all my friends, asking questions. They never even liked you in the first place. Dated a girl that I hate for the attention. She only made it 2 days, what a connection. It's like you'd do anything for my affection. You're going all about